If you have 2 years of experience and you are appearing for an interview for data engineering or data scientist role, these are the most asked interview questions often interviewers asked. But the dangerous part is most people think they know them until interviewer do the slight changes in example and we stuck there. So in this video, we will be learning the concepts visually and practically. Imagine you are a data engineer and you are building a data pipeline and you want to store the variables like database name, schema, table name, port name, host name. So would you like these variable values to be changed in future? Probably not, right? So in that case, we will be using the tuple. In contrast, what is list? Imagine you want to store some variables in a data structure, but this time you want these values to be changed in future with requirements. So in that case, we will use list. Let's quickly try to visualize this. Let's say we have defined a box and this box is our tuple, but this box is locked. So whatever things we have put inside these box once, it cannot be changed with time. So that is the concept of tuple in Python. Whereas this time we have defined another box that denotes the list, but we can add the things that we want to store here and we can change it also according to our requirement. So we use tuple in case where we don't want our data to change accidentally in future use case. Whereas list data structure is like a variable. One major difference is inside variable we can store only single value of different type of data types. Whereas in the list we can store multiple values of different data types or same data types which can be changed. So these are the basic concept of tuple versus list in Python. And there are some properties of these two data structures that is important for us to know. For example, tuple is immutable that we have already discussed. They shows the faster execution. They are safer also because once data is saved inside tuple, they are not changeable. Whereas in case of list, of course, it is a mutable. Performance of list are comparatively slower than the tuple and list occupies more memory. So that is the basic difference between the tuple and list that any candidate who is appearing for an interview in Python must know. Let's quickly see the practical implementation, how to define the tuple and list in Python. Let's first continue with the tuple. And similarly, if we want to define a list, so it will be something like this. So one important thing needed to be noted here, while defining the tuple, we use the round braces, whereas while defining the list, we have used the square brackets. Be implementing it something like this. This bug confuses almost every developer and interviewers one of the favorite questions. First, let's continue with the practical implementation. To define the shallow copy and deep copy, first we have to import the module copy. Let's define a nested list. Now, in order to create the shallow copy of this, we have to use the copy module. Now, shallow copy is created, but this time I am intentionally changing one of the value of the shallow copy. Now, let's print both these lists. Wait, why the original value also changed? Pets, we have defined two nested lists, original and shallow. The original list reference to some particular memory location in computer memories, and shallow list that is created from the original list, it also reference to the same computer's memory. So when we change one particular value of the shallow list to some value, it automatically gets changed in the original list also. That's why when we printed the value of original list, its value also got changed, despite of the fact we changed it for shallow only. So that is the concept of shallow copy in Python. Let's quickly see the practical implementation of deep copy also. I am creating a variable deep copy using the copy module from the original nested list. And again, as we did in the previous example also, let's change some value of the deep copy variable. And this time also we will be checking the value of the original listed list, whether it will be changing or not. So this time the value of the original nested list remains intact. It is not changing. Let's quickly try to visualize this also, and then we will be easily understand the difference. So what is happening here is we have defined a variable deep copy, and it is created from the original nested list only using the copy module. But this time when we created this deep copy, it is not pointing to this memory location. It is pointing to some independent memory location in computer's memory, and it's storing the same values because it is created from the original nested list. So this time when I was changing the value with some another value and printing the original nested copy, so this memory variable is getting printed. So that is why the deep copy is independent of the original nested list. So in easy language, we can take an example of address book. Let's say we have an address book and we have the multiple photocopies of the pages of address book. So those photocopies are like the shallow copy. Whereas if we have the completely independent address book, then it will be the example of deep copy. Imagine in your ETL pipeline script, you want to define a particular function that takes independent inputs. Sometimes it requires two inputs, whereas sometimes it requires five inputs. So how we can define this dynamically? So in that case, we will be using these two important functions in Python, args and keyword argument. Suppose let's define a function that adds two numbers. So 5 got printed here. Similarly, in the next case, let's say this time I want to define the addition of three different numbers. So we have to define a third parameter here to achieve the desired results. But it would be very convenient if there is some dynamic way to tell the function to take whatever arguments that is passed during the function call and add those parameters. So in that case, we use the concept of arguments in Python. So how we will be using those? We can use the arguments something like this. Here I have provided the three parameters while calling the functions, but because we have used this special function in Python and inside this function code block, I am printing the value of the final sum of the arguments that is passed during the function call. So of course we got the desired output printed here. But it is important to understand what this star and asterisk denotes here. So what is happening here, this single star beside the keyword args denotes the tuple. So whatever arguments we passed while calling the function add number, those are internally converted to tuples. So this is also known as positional arguments. Now let's talk about the next one, that is called the KW args, where KW stands for keywords. So these are also called keywords arguments. So what's the double star denotes here? It's simply telling the Python interpreter while calling the function, we are passing the dictionary. So single star stands for tuple and double star stands for dictionary. Now let's see the practical implementation. So these are the kind of Python concepts interviewers expect you to truly understand, not just memorize. In the next video, we will cover more real-world Python questions frequently asked in data engineering interviews.